Welcome back to Don's Life. Welcome to the channel. Thanks for joining today. I've been doing YouTube now for just over 3 years. I put up a post the other day telling you to ask me any questions that you want. I picked the first 12. I'm going to answer them. Let's go. All right, before we get started, today's video is brought to you by Pedal Commander. We installed a pedal commander in my wife's 2022 Cadillac Escalade Sport Platinum as a bit of a Valentine's gift.
That sucks.
Anyway, it does work as advertised. We have a follow-up video coming up soon, answering some more of your questions when it comes to this upgrade.
Oh my God. That's what I wanted when I said I wanted my truck to go.
We're gonna do some tests with backing into the garage, that type of thing, so stay tuned for that. Let's get back to the video. All right, I got my list here. I've got my notes. I'm not going to say last names because I'll probably butcher them, but I'm going to put up the question here on the screen. I've got my little notes here. These are just my opinions. Let's start with the first question. So we got Braden asking, hey Don, new to the channel here. Why did you choose the AT4 over the Denali? Keep up the good work. Well, thanks. I'll try to do that. So I had a Denali to begin with. I was looking at my next truck purchase, probably around 2020. And I was going to get another Denali. I really like what the new body style looked like with the 2019 and up. And the AT4 was also getting announced. And as I started to compare the features in the trim, I was gonna do a chrome delete on the Denali anyway, because that's what I did on my previous one. There's a lot of chrome on a Denali. The AT4 already had most of that deleted, so that was attractive. And I've kind of wanted a beefier truck for a while. So the AT4 was already a head start in that direction. The only thing that the AT4 has, the Denali doesn't, is really the 2-inch lift and the more off-road tire options and things like that. And obviously the chrome delete, but you can get the 6.2 and the diesel now and stuff like that. But the Denali has the adaptive suspension. So it's a bit of a trade-off if you want a higher truck or not. So that 2-inch lift from the factory with warranty was appealing, and that's why I got one. All right, so the next one is Dustin asks, hey Don, how are the lights holding up that you installed in your wheel wells? So he's talking about the Oxbeam rock lights that I put in there. There's 8 pods, one above each wheel and then some scattered in between. They're working absolutely fine. If I had to do it again though, I would probably go the all white, because the ones that I put in there are RGB. They combine red, green, and blue to make whatever color that you want. However, because the LEDs inside the pod are placed a little bit far apart, maybe they need to be to cast the light as wide as they need to, but because they're a little bit apart, it's kind of like a Venn diagram where you have 3 overlapping circles. You get the right color in the middle, but you get hints of the color that you're trying to get away from on the outside. So an orange circle, for example, ends up having a little bit of yellow maybe on one side. So I run into that a little bit. It's not that dramatic, you barely notice it, but I notice it because I'm picky that way. But if you try to do white with RGB, it just looks kind of like a yellowy muted white, and it's not as crisp as I would like. So I would consider that, but they're working fine. All right, the next one here is by Mr. Cheesecake. What is your opinion, the best tire brand for AT4s? So I've done some research here for the last several months. I have a sponsor lined up for some wheels already. Quick story on that. If you caught it in one of my earlier videos, the shipping to get them into Canada is ridiculous right now. And it's gonna cost just as much as the rims, basically, to get them here at my house. Now I could drive to North Dakota, which is one of the closest states to me, or Montana, and I could meet a friend on YouTube that wants to have them shipped to his house for free, and then I'd come pick them up and I'd pay the duties and taxes bringing them over the border. So do you want to be my friend? So let's get to the tires that I'm looking into, and I've narrowed it down. Now my considerations have to do a lot with the fact that I still tow. So if you're looking for tires for your AT4 specifically, it's hard to say what's the best brand, because if you're just going to go off-road all the time, well then there's going to be a brand that's better for just off-road. If you're going to get one that's going to be good on-road, just on the pavement, then there's going to be one that leans that way. And if you have one that needs to be in between, which is kind of where I'm leaning, then I'll go through that list. But you have to also consider that towing heavy means that the construction of the tire is going to be very important. And for performance, you got to watch out for unsprung weight. So one tire can be 43 pounds, one can be 60 some pounds. There's quite a range. So just keep that in mind when you're tire shopping and also wheel shopping. But the 5 that I picked have just as much to do with function on how I use my truck, my lifestyle, and then they also have to still look aggressive for the theme of the truck that I have going on right now with that build. So we have 5 tires listed here. The first one is the Toyo Open Country Rugged Terrain. That one has a tread life of 45,000 miles. We got the Toyo Open Country All Terrain 3. That is a 50,000 mile tread life. We have the Nito Recon Grapplers. They have a 55,000 mile tread life. We have the Nito Ridge Grapplers. I can't remember the tread life on them. You can look it up though if you want. And then the BF Goodrich TA KO2s with a 50,000 mile tread life. So I've narrowed it down to those 5. I haven't made my pick yet, but I do like the looks of them all. I just have to finish evaluating exactly what I want and have them do for me. All right, we're on a roll. We got Ruben asking me, hey Don, do you get your truck washed at a car wash? I wonder how it'll hold up. So I asked him a follow-up question to this before recording this video, and he's specifically asking about the black wrapped areas on my truck. Because it's minus 40 outside right now, and I'm not kidding, it's, well, minus 30 something. My wife's Escalade is wrapped, my BMW's wrapped, so I'm gonna use the Escalade here to answer this one as best as I can. So when you put a wrap on a vehicle, depending on the style that you do it, you may have an exposed edge like this. So if I drag my fingernail, I can tap this edge. So I prefer to use a wand and not an automatic car wash because I can control the angle of the spray pattern. You want to hit it at any angle except trying to get under the wrap because that pressure could potentially lift that edge. Rain and stuff like that isn't going to bother it at all. But why would I try to peel it up? I wouldn't want to, right? So I do either a bucket wash or I'll go to a car wash that has the wands where I control the angle of the spray. Otherwise, I'm not too worried about it, but also consider if you go to a car wash, the soap mixture that you're using, you don't know what concentration that they've mixed it at. And you've got to be careful with vinyl that you're not using something that's not pH neutral, and you don't want something that's going to dry out the wrap prematurely. So I'll still use some car wash soap. When I bucket wash, I do the whole foam cannon and all that stuff and really get it nice and clean. And because I'm using the right soap, I don't have to worry. This is number 5. We're almost halfway there. Michael asks, how are the new shocks holding up and when are you buying the new AT4? Somebody else asked the AT4 piece a little later, so I'll address it in that question. But the shocks specifically, I couldn't be happier. When I went on the journey of replacing the Ranchos, because if you look at any of the reviews of the Ranchos, they're not that great. There's the odd one out there, but these are a very entry-level off-road shock. For a little investment, not much more, you can get these Bilstein 5100s. I've yet to find a bad review. The only reviews that I've read where they're trying to cast shade on these shocks or when they're comparing them to $1,000, $1,500 reservoir shocks, well, they're not even in the same class. So for a few $100s to go into these Bilstein 5100s front or rear with an adjustable clip for the front without throwing off your angles, the geometry of the front end, I think they're a great investment. I do notice a ride difference in the front and in the back, and I just couldn't be happier. And it's nice they're not corroded like this after a little over a year. All right, we're flying along here. We got Joe who's asked, has anyone come out with a tuner for the 6.2 2019 to 2022 non-refresh models? The answer is yes. The one that I can think of off the top of my head is HP Tuners. They have an ECM unlock program. So you can take out your ECM, ship it to them. They can take that as a core, give you a bit of a credit, and ship you one that's already unlocked. So it's just less wait time. And you can use that one to begin tuning. Or you can ship yours to them. They can have it for a bit. They can unlock yours, have it ready for tuning and ship it back to you. Or you can just go to their website, order one, and have it shipped to you, and you still have your original one if you needed to swap them out. Now you still need to buy a tuner at this point, usually using an app or a laptop connected to your OBD2 port, and then start the tuning. There's also another one that I found. Go to holly.com. They've got the Predator 2, I believe it's called. It's a tuner that you have to buy that comes with the ECM unlock service. You still have to ship your ECM away. I don't know who they're using, if it's themselves or maybe they're getting HP tuners to do it, but there are a couple options out there. So as you can hear, it is a little more involved. You can't just go buy a box that plugs into your OBD2 port and lets you start tuning. The cost of this service starts at about $450 US to about $700 US, I believe. Don't 100% quote me on that. I'm sure there's sales and discounts and things like that, but it is more involved. And yes, you can do it. Next page. All right, we got one from the famous Jake Paul. Find a decent fix for snow building up on the headlight, fog lights while driving. No heat is produced from the LED lighting, so it doesn't melt off. If the snowfall is heavy, I find myself pulling over often to wipe it away. So I haven't experienced this problem to a very high degree, possibly because where I live, it just gets extremely cold. So when the snow falls, it doesn't get wet and sticky that often. I can't think of a solution off the top of my head. Otherwise, the manufacturer would have to put something inside the headlights and fog lights, like a heating element like we use on the glass on our defrosts on our vehicles. But because it's plastic, I don't know how hot they would want that, or if it would lead to cracking or premature drying out of the lenses. I really don't know, but maybe you could have some fun with it. Off the top of my head, you could maybe run some air lines with some nozzles pointed at all your lights, have a compressor like I do, fill up a tank, and then just momentary release that air and shoot, blow that snow off. Sorry, I don't have a true solution for it. Maybe some Rain-X or some type of hydrophobic treatment on the lens might help. Okay, next we have from Instagram, JLucio198. He asked, what battery do you use that powers all the lights and your truck? Well, in this case, I still have the factory AGM battery from General Motors. AGM stands for Advanced Glass Mat. It's the same chemistry as a regular lead acid battery, but the way the configuration and the materials are used, it ends up being much more efficient. However, it's still the stock battery, but I maintain it with a number of C-Tech products. So about once a month, I'll use something like this. This is the MXS 5.0, and it has settings for AGM batteries specifically, or your RV batteries. This doesn't do lithium. There's a special charger for that, which I have for my BMW. But something like this is fantastic. Or you go with something like the CS Free, which I also use. This is a smart charger. So what it does is it knows exactly what battery you've connected it to after it does some diagnostics, and then it adjusts itself, just like the MXS5, to make sure that that battery is conditioned and charged basically to 100%, floats it there, and make sure that that battery is healthy for the long term. So if you want to get the most out of the factory battery, this is all you need. But let's say the factory battery isn't going to cut it. I would go with a yellow top Optima battery. Okay, final stretch. We got Greg asking, Don, I'm wanting to power wash my engine compartment. It is filthy with dust and dirt. Do you recommend or suggest anything? 2021 Silverado 6.2 High Country, nice truck. So let's go to my wife's Escalade engine compartment because it's very similar to the Sierras and the Silverados, and have a look. Okay, let's take a look here. First off, you can do it. It's whether you should do it. Some mechanics, professionals, the internet will tell you don't do it. Some will say you can. I would say that you can, but you have to be careful and take some things into consideration. So first, the power washer that you're using, reduce the pressure to no more than 1,000 PSI, and think about how you're going to approach the job, because you do have to worry about electrical components. You have to worry about weak seals on things. I got an aftermarket intake here. I could blow a lot of water in there if I wasn't careful. So I'd have to think about what I'm doing there. Your alternator, you do not want to put a steady stream of water into these openings. You could cover it with a plastic baggie. But what I would do, and maybe I'll do a video in the spring because this will need a cleaning, is I would give it a quick rinse with the power washer just to kind of get everything a little bit wet and agitated. Then I would take a soap or degreaser product that's designed for cleaning engine compartments, and I would give everything a light spray. Then I would go and get some brushes, whether they're like wheel brushes for in between spokes on your wheels, or just some larger brushes with long bristles. And I would give everything a little scrub. I'd be careful around the positive and negative terminals on the battery, but I would agitate everything with the brush now that I got the degreaser or the soap on there. And then once that's done, it would be a clean water rinse with the power washer and long sweeps. Again, being careful not to get it in the alternator, anywhere there's a seal where you don't want water penetrating it. Getting water on these connectors for your injectors and stuff like that is fine. I wouldn't concentrate the water there. Again, the power washer, long sweeping, quick motions, work from the top down, so that way this is clean and you're just moving the dirt down and out. Do this first before you do the outside of the vehicle, and you could call it a day. Only a few left. The next one's from Sask Sledding. Hey, if you're in Saskatoon, hit me up. Maybe we'll go for a coffee. What would you order for a new truck, and what is your washing process for your truck? So if I order one right now, and full disclosure, I actually got a call from my dealership a month or so ago. They have two AT4X AEVs coming in, one in black, one in white, not missing any chips or anything like that. I got the invoice to figure out what it would cost. I just don't feel that I'm there yet. But if I did get something, it would probably be an AT4X AEV edition or a Denali in a black edition or ultimate. I'm not sure which it is, but the one with the chrome delete that's already done. If I went the route of the Denali, then I would consider doing my own lift. So that one's a bit of a not sure, because you have that nice adaptive suspension that typically you'd have to take out if you're going to do any of that lift adjustment. How I wash my vehicle though, I prefer to do it on my property with the garden hose and the bucket wash method, with one bucket for the soap and 2 buckets just to get the clean water when I'm doing other things. But sometimes I have to cheat and I have to go to the car wash and I use the wand wash, which I mentioned in an answer to a previous question. But the cheating method that I have, and some of you might agree and some of you might not, and that's okay. It's your vehicle, this one's mine. But I'll bring a nice clean wash mitt and I will do a full soap wash of the vehicle with the wand at the car wash. And then if you know the car wash ones, how they work, when you let go of the trigger, there's still some pressure being released and soap. I will hold that with one hand and have the mitt up against the vehicle with the other and just do long passes, not pushing too hard. And because I've got most of the dirt and the grime off of the body, I'm just moving the mitt through the soap. I'm actually able to lift that grime off. And then when I give it the final rinse, it's actually very clean. It just needs to be dried off. Okay, we got one from Sage here. He asked the local tinting business if they do taillights. He said his tint won't stick to taillights for whatever reason. So when my AT4 comes in, I want to tint mine like you did. What did you buy? Well, the company I use for taillight tint specifically is Vivid. That's Vivid right there, 2 V's in the beginning. I don't have discount codes for this stuff, but this is their ultimate tint. This right now is used on these taillights on the BMW. I did a video tinting the lights on my AT4, but the police just really notice up against the white vehicle that I've got tint and instruct me to take it off. But I've had tint on this BMW, the same stuff I had on my AT4. This is the light smoke, so it's not too dark. And the police have pulled me over in this for other reasons. And I even had the officer, when he came up beside my car, he goes like this and touches my lights to see if they're tint. And I don't know if you can see under the dust layer here, but that looks like a factory smoked lens. He didn't say anything about this, but he gave me a tint ticket on my windows. So I'd recommend this stuff here. Depending on what you get though, there's different tint films. I think they have 3 different ones. They're all dry application, so these ones will stick. They have an adhesive on the back. Once you heat them with a heat gun after, as you press them in with your squeegee, the glue will start to activate and bond to the surface. But those AT4 taillights are a pain in the beep. But those AT4 taillights are a pain in the butt. Now, he just might not want to do them. All right, the last one for today's video. We have Brian. How tempted are you to upgrade to the newest generation GMC trucks with the interior refresh? So going back to that little story I told you about the AT4X AEV, I was pretty excited then. I'd say I was at about 8 or 9 on a scale of 1 to 10. I'd say I'm around a 7 right now. You may not agree with me on this, but the console shifter or the column shifter, I think there's pros and cons to both. Neither one's a deal breaker for me. We have the 2022 Escalade and it's got the console shifter. It's very similar to the one in the Sierra, the refreshed model. I don't know. It's nice to have it out of the way and have an extra bit of real estate here, but it's also nice not having this rod sticking out of the column by the steering wheel. So that one doesn't really bother me. They could redo the truck again and have the column shifter in the higher trims and it wouldn't really bother me. It would be nice having the larger screen. I think more than that though is the seats. I would like upgraded seats, and being spoiled in the Escalade with the massage seats, I think that's really nice to have, and I wish my AT4 had it. Knowing these newer refresh models have that as an option on the higher trims, I think that actually gets me excited. It's probably because I'm an old man and I don't mind a massage while I'm driving. We got it. We got all 12 questions that I selected. And I'll select a bunch more. We'll probably have to do another video on this. But if you like this format and you want to see these once in a while, leave a question on my post on this video and I'll start to summarize them and see what I can answer for you. But if you like today's video, hit that like button. Please consider subscribing. We'll talk to you next time. I have deleted. There's a bug in here. There's a few things on the AT. I can't. I got them.